Hello and welcome back to Autistic After Hours. I'm your host Ashra, and today, to celebrate 100 episodes of Autistic After Hours, we are joined by a very special guest, my boyfriend, Nicholas Blonner.
Hello, YouTube and Spotify and Apple and everywhere else.
Thank you. That was a great way to tell everyone to follow me on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, wherever you're listening right now. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Autistic After Hours. And thank you all very much for submitting questions on my main Instagram platform for this episode today. I thought since we've had 100 episodes of Autistic After Hours and we've had some recent reels on Instagram starring Nick, it would be very fitting to celebrate with Nick. So thanks for being here, Nick.
No problem. Thanks for having me back, Ashra.
So this is Nick's second time being on the podcast, but the last time he was on was a really long time ago, maybe even like close to a year ago. So this is the first time in a long time, and so I'm excited to have him back on the podcast, and also excited because the last time he was on the podcast, I wasn't even posting the episodes on YouTube. So this is like one of the first times that you guys are going to actually see Nick like in long form content of mine. So that's pretty cool. I received a lot of questions from you guys, so I just want to thank you for submitting and for having interest in hearing from me and Nick today. And I also want to say sorry if we don't get to your question. I tried to kind of combine and answer like the most commonly asked questions because some of them were asked multiple times. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. I just wanted to quickly say, if you don't want to answer any of them, just tell me and we'll skip it, okay?
Okay.
All right, the first question that we have for Nick. Are you also autistic? / how did you and Ashra meet?
Okay, to answer part one, I am not autistic. To answer part two, we met on like a group travel trip, and we were kind of friends on the trip, and then we went on a date a few months later.
So Nick does not identify as autistic. Nick, do you want to say if you identify as neurodivergent, neurotypical, or like anything like that?
I would say that I identify as what's the right term?
I don't know, are you neurodivergent or neurotypical? Do you think you have ADHD?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would say I identify as neurotypical because nothing that I have seems to be any kind of like effect on me in a way that, you know, like affects my entire, like my day-to-day, or it's something that I need to accommodate, you know? Would that be a reason that even if I do have something that might potentially align with like ADHD or something, that I probably don't actually have ADHD? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think whatever is helpful for you. If you don't feel like it's helpful or necessary for you to use any sort of label and neurotypical sounds right to you, then I think it's whatever feels right for you. So at this point in time, you want to say you identify as neurotypical. Mm-hmm. You're not aware that you have anything that would lead to you identifying as neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we met on like a guided travel experience. We met about 6 years ago. And when we met, I was in a relationship with somebody else, but that relationship was on its way out. And Nick had a little bit of a fling on the trip, which made me really jealous because I liked him ever since I met him. A few months after the trip, we ended up going on a date, and the rest was history. Right,
yes,
Nick?
Yes, it was. And let me tell you, folks at home, Ashra loves going back to that little fling that I had on that trip. We also have had a cat for 3 years together.
Yeah, you guys all know Crosby. Crosby is our child, and we love him very, very, very much. And he's under Nick's hat right now. And he might come out of Nick's hat at some point during the episode. He does what he wants. We just support him. I just want to say, I do have jealousy issues. Would you say so?
I think you definitely get jealous. And you often circle back to things that are long since dormant.
Yeah, like I will continuously bring up things that have hurt me in the past. Like, maybe because, I don't know.
Like, remember the bee? Should we bring up the bee incident?
Yeah, so
from year one of our 6-year relationship.
The first year we were dating, Nick was going to school in Syracuse for his master's. I went to visit him, and on the first day that I got there, there was a bee that was bothering me. We were like sitting outside eating food or something, and there was a bee, and and I started to kind of freak out because the bee was following me, and I was getting scared, and I was like kind of screaming, as I do. And Nick made a comment. He was like, "It's just a bee," or something.
I said something along the lines of, it's just a bee. If you don't move, it'll go away. You just gotta let it do its thing.
Yeah, but you said it like you were annoyed, and I'm still upset about it, and it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
And I bring it up when necessary. I think it's probably tied to all or nothing thinking. Maybe some of you can relate, but like if something happens that upsets me, it sometimes will then like flood my brain with all of the things that have happened that really upset me. And those things will like really, really feel very heavy and very forward in my mind and hard to kind of like let go of. It will feel like all of those things like flood to the front of my memory and feel really strong. It'll feel like I have to bring it up. Like there might be some compulsiveness to it as well, like some of my OCD. I think it's definitely related to all or nothing thinking. Like if Nick upsets me somehow, then I might have like all of my Nick upset me moments come to the front of my mind, and then I kind of have to like regain a little bit of like I kind of have to like zoom out. I feel very zoomed in, and I have to like zoom out to like see the bigger picture and not focus on all of those things, and remember that Nick is someone I love, and Nick is not like all bad just because he did one thing that upset me. Right, Nick?
Yeah, I was on team B in that scenario, and I shouldn't have been on team B.
You shouldn't, and you know that now.
Yeah, I know that now. Now anytime I see a bee, watch out. That thing better keep flying.
Nick, how would you describe your experience being with and supporting an autistic partner?
That was a good question. Thank you for asking. I don't actually think there's any major difference. I would say it's just like a different set of things to think about, you know, as opposed to any relationship. Every single person's unique. When we first started dating, she wasn't diagnosed and wasn't aware and wasn't self-diagnosed that she was autistic. So it was kind of interesting for the first couple of years to learn about it as she learned about it. And I definitely didn't believe it at first. And then that was probably due to my limited understanding of the spectrum. So now that we're like 3-ish years into our relationship with you being diagnosed too, I would say the main thing still going on is like we still have moments that maybe a fight or maybe a disagreement or whatever that are probably caused by like communication breakdowns due to one of us being neurotypical, one of us being neurodivergent, would you say?
I think that you being neurotypical and me being neurodivergent poses both unique struggles but also like strengths, because we can really effectively support each other in ways that like maybe one of us is struggling, because maybe like one thing that comes to mind is like I'm a very kind of like blunt and literal communicator, whereas Nick is kind of like a lot softer in his communication.
Conflict avoidant.
Yeah, very avoidant.
Yeah.
Whereas I am the stark opposite of that. I really tell it how it is. Usually if I'm upset or like with my opinion, especially if it's somebody that I feel comfortable with or where I feel like it's warranted for me to be that straightforward, I think that balances out really well, actually. It brings a strength to the relationship because he kind of can soften me where necessary, and I can like bring a little bit more like bluntness. That's just one example.
There's like a lot of really awesome parts, of course. Like that's why we're together, I think. One of my favorite parts is like how often we just do like little games or play stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's pretty fun, and I feel like that might not happen in a relationship with someone who's neurotypical, because maybe a lot of the times we play it's a stim for you, you know? Yeah. So that might bring it out more often than in a relationship where someone doesn't have a need to stim as frequently. That's just one example. I don't know. I mean, there's also something really cozy about our relationship because I think you're so dependent on like patterns in your day. And, you know, like at a certain time, I know it's going to be getting into cozy clothes, Dinner's going to be within the certain window. We're going to watch a show or a movie. We're going to have dessert. We're going to have tea. We're going to go to bed before 10. Like that kind of structure is very nice and reliable, you know? Like I know that no matter what happens during the day, that will be what's happening during those hours, which is nice and comforting in a way, you know?
You have a true curiosity about people in general, and I think that is maybe one of the biggest reasons why our relationship has lasted and hopefully will last until forever. Because I really appreciate Nick's curiosity. I feel very misjudged and misunderstood by a lot of people, and I have felt that way with Nick, but it's always been remedied and it's never lasted, and Nick sees me as closely to the way that I see me as any person ever has, at least from my perception, and that is because of his curiosity, because I think he's very open to not being skewed by his own bias, whereas many people aren't, and that has allowed me to feel very free and to be my full self around him. Do you often feel that you know how I feel, or you know what I'm thinking before I know myself? So for example, if I'm experiencing a certain emotion and I'm maybe visibly showing the signs of that, but my mind has not yet processed it, do you feel like maybe you can see that and you kind of want to help me through that, but it's difficult because you don't always want to be like, Ashra, are you okay? Ashra, are you okay? Ashra, what's wrong? What's wrong? Does that ever come up?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, no, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'll give a recent example to illustrate what this question asked. It was last Saturday, from the point of us recording, that Ashra wanted to go to Walmart to get some stuff. And we're in LA, so anything that's not within a 5-minute drive immediately becomes at minimum a half-hour drive. I agreed to go with her, and she's driving, and we're in the car, and I just decided to close my eyes and kind of like rest while we were driving. I could feel tension with my eyes closed, if you know what I mean, if you've ever been in a situation like that. I could just feel the frustrated, the car was frustrated. That's what it felt like, because the car was an extension of Ashra. And I guessed, and I think was correct to think, that she felt like we were wasting our time. So I initially asked, would you want to just turn around and go home? To which Ashra replied, no, that would be a waste. We're already doing it.
I also started frantically itching myself when he asked me that question.
Yeah, to be fair, Ashra has a lot of easy tells, and one of them is she frantically itches, like her skin is peeling or something. And so it's not too difficult to tell when she might be upset. But like I said, my eyes were closed, so I did not see the itching. I just felt the friction of the air moving around you.
You felt heat from me itching my skin so hard I was starting a fire.
Yeah, the temperature was rising. So after I asked initially and she said, no, let's keep going, I gave it some more time. And then I said, is there something else we could do in this area or something like that? And then, sure enough, we were really close to a place that we both enjoy going to in LA. So as soon as that happened, all that tense driving went away, and Ashra was back to her free-flowing driving self. Yes, sometimes I can understand what she's got going on before she does, and it takes some time for her to like catch up. But I will say that happens in the other direction too. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of times when I'm upset or whatever emotional state, and Ashra recognizes it first. I would imagine that's fairly common for a lot of relationships, you know.
Something else that I wanted to add is that I think there was a period of time in our relationship where this was happening more frequently, like the second half of this person's question, where you would ask me if I'm okay more, and you don't do that as much anymore, because I think it's been a dual effort of me being a bit more able to express when something is wrong or when I don't know if something is wrong. That's a big thing. For a long time, I didn't realize that I didn't know often when things were wrong. I didn't know that I needed more process time. And so instead of being able to say, like, maybe I'm not feeling right and I don't know why, instead I would just like kind of, it wasn't intentionally a lie, but like a quick answer of like, yes, I'm okay, when really I wasn't. Now I can like be a little bit more clear on when I'm not feeling okay, but maybe I don't know why. And I've said that to you before, where like maybe you are noticing something and you might ask if I'm okay, and I might say like, I feel like something's wrong, but I don't really know what's wrong yet. Whereas in the past I might have said, yes, I'm okay, and then you would continue being like, are you sure, are you okay, and that might make things worse. That might make me have a shutdown or a meltdown, because it's kind of like pushing and pushing and pushing when I don't have any answer to give, because I really don't know what's wrong yet. So that's something like that on my end I've shifted to be able to tell him when I don't know if something's wrong. But also I think you know that like over time we've realized if I am not feeling right and you keep asking if I'm okay, that usually makes things worse. What are some upsides of having an autistic partner that some people may not realize? That's kind of a difficult question. You don't want to speak for everyone. Like,
yeah. I would just say this is just me talking about our relationship. Like, I have no idea what it's like to date someone else who's autistic. One kind of, I don't even want to say frivolous, because to me it's not frivolous, upside is chocolate chip cookies. We have had chocolate chip cookies for dessert, fresh. If you add up all the nights, like 3 years of our relationship, that's something. That's a very special thing that a lot of people don't get to experience. And I do think that's a byproduct of Ashra being autistic. It's a comfort food. It's like a, all the things you guys already know that can explain better than I can.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, I'm a big fan of chocolate chip cookies, and I've made them every single night for the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. We have consumed so many chocolate chip cookies, it's ungodly.
Yeah, if there's one thing that you're going to get dating me, it's structure in all areas of life. There's very little room for free-flowing plans. Most things are going to be planned, which can be problematic because Nick likes freedom as well.
Never that big of an issue. We figure it out.
Plus, I stay home a lot, and sometimes you go do things and I just stay here and I do my thing here. So the upside is chocolate chip cookies that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there anything else coming to mind for you?
Of course. Another upside, I would say, is you always want to do everything together, which is great, Like for you, you're more comfortable when we do things together than in most other scenarios, So that's great because it's just like a constant companion that might go deeper than some relationships, might not. Other relationships probably go deeper. But the fact that we do so much together, how close can you get to someone? Like that's about as close as you can get.
Right. And I think something else that you've maybe mentioned to me before that you like about me specifically, which I think might be a common autistic thing, is like there are very few people that I feel myself around, very few people I feel comfortable with. And so it's kind of like high praise to you maybe that like you're that person for me.
Oh yeah, it's kind of special. It's like a secret club or something.
Do you ever feel like a caretaker more than a partner? If so, how do you deal with that?
Yes, I do feel like a caretaker sometimes. It doesn't speak to the entire experience of being in a relationship or being in this specific relationship.
Maybe I don't know if I fully understand the definition of caretaker. I'm assuming that it means maybe like rather than acting as a partner, you're maybe acting as somebody who would maybe do like a bit more for the person than the average partner would.
I think this question's almost implying like, are there moments where it feels less like a relationship, like a romantic relationship, a partnership, and more so like this other type of relationship, such as a caregiver,
I don't think for me, it never feels that way. I don't ever feel like you're a separate, like, caregiver to me. I feel like I need specific things in a relationship, in a romantic relationship. And sometimes that is just more or different from what a typical person might need from their partner, but I don't think it ever deviates from being a romantic relationship. He is my romantic partner that also happens to maybe give me more support in certain areas of my life than the average person might need. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, like, yeah. I don't think there's a deviation between the two. It's not like I'm taking off my party hat and putting on my caregiver hat.
Maybe areas where I need support, like you definitely have helped me before, like more recently, like I've had maybe a couple of meltdowns. That's kind of something that's started happening recently, maybe as I've been unmasking more. I had like 2 meltdowns in the past few months that felt pretty intense, and Nick was there for both of them. And Nick helped me a lot during those. Did he feel like a caregiver? Not really. He felt like my boyfriend who was helping me through a hard moment.
Yeah.
There are certain things where like he takes on more of the load because it would be very difficult for me to do that myself. With social things, you definitely like pick up the social load. Like if we're going to an event or something, like you're going to be doing most of the talking. You're going to be like carrying most of the conversations. I'm not really going to do much of that.
Yeah, I'm a pretty social guy too, so I think I'm probably to the farther extreme of wanting to be social and wanting to be in social environments a lot. Feels good for me. So it kind of lends into something that I crave versus something that might be more challenging for you. So it makes sense that I would take the job on that, you know?
Yeah. It is totally okay for somebody to feel like their partner feels like a caregiver. I think I'm struggling to understand maybe what that definition is and how it would be different from a romantic partner just caring for their partner. So I guess like I don't necessarily think that Nick ever becomes like a separate relational figure to me. Like he never like doesn't feel like my boyfriend and rather feels like a caregiver. It's more so like he feels like my boyfriend who also offers me maybe a little bit more support than the traditional support that you would get in a relationship. I love this question. How has Ashra changed your life?
Of course, Ashra's changed my life. I would say Ashra and I have been pretty open in the fact that we could tell that this was a relationship that neither of us wanted to end anytime soon, and I don't know about her, but I still feel that way. So, how does finding someone you want to spend the rest of your life with change your life? Like in more ways than you can measure or describe. We've described them in a few of the answers here, but I think like saying any one specific thing kind of trivializes the whole impact, you know? So it went from living as an individual to living as a little team. What bigger impact to a life could there be than that?
Yeah, me and Nick are best friends.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I could do to help you understand my needs more?
We're pretty far into this thing now, so I feel like we have pretty good communication now about all this kind of stuff.
I think the thing that I had to do to help Nick understand me was to understand myself. I think I had to get my autism diagnosis and like learn what that meant for me and gain acceptance around it.
I would say the general like scientific method of how this has gone down in the past is something has happened. I didn't understand what happened. Typically, once everything has settled, then we talk about it with level heads for both of us, and then that helps to break it down in a way that both of us can then understand it better.
I think also in order to help Nick understand me, I had to also work to understand him, because sometimes my difficulties are stemming directly from something that I'm noticing about Nick, For example, if I notice Nick's mood changes, I may automatically think that I've done something wrong. I may automatically think that I'm the reason that he's upset, when sometimes that's not the reason, and most of the time that's not the reason. Usually it's some external thing that Nick maybe just isn't ready to tell me about or ready to talk about, because he also like needs processing time. And that's something about Nick. Like, Nick doesn't really like to, like, if he's in the moment of being upset, he doesn't usually like to talk about what's making him upset. Usually he needs time to like maybe feel it or get it processed in his brain before he wants to talk about it. And so that's actually an issue that's happened a few times, and it still does sometimes happen. But like, I've had to understand that about Nick so that Nick could then understand about me that I'm very reactive to subtle changes in his mood. So like, it's kind of this circular thing where like, in order for me to understand him, he had to understand me. I think this will be the last question. Has learning about unmasking through Ashra made you reflect on any masks that you may have?
It gave me a more conscious awareness of the idea of masking, which means I think about it more as opposed to having it just be something in the background, you know? Like, I don't know any that I do specifically. I think I probably mask in a similar way that a lot of people do without knowing it. Sometimes if I'm in a social setting where I don't feel confident in, you know, like back in college when I would go to college parties, I never really felt confident. Or if I go to a party with like professionals in a field that I aspire to be in but I'm not in, you know, like because we're in LA now and I want to work in that field, like there's been a few situations where I don't feel comfortable. I kind of clam up big time in those, and I catch myself speaking in a way that doesn't sound like myself or feel natural. So I would consider that a mask. Having a more of an awareness of that so I kind of can catch myself doing it in the moment has definitely been something that I've gained the ability to do since being with Ashra. And that's just one example. I'm sure there's more.
I think overall, a lot of the questions had a similar theme. A lot of people were just interested in the ways that like neurodivergent-neurotypical partnership shows up for us, and the ways that like Nick specifically supports me. And it would really be difficult to talk about that extensively in one episode, especially when there's a lot of different questions. But overall, like advice, some people were asking for advice. I think just like approaching things with curiosity is really helpful for both Nick and for me. And also just learning about yourself and then being able to explain that, or being able to learn about yourself so then you can be conscious of your own struggles and where they might be impacting communication difficulties, or just then being able to like, you know, explain those things to your partner so that they can hopefully then approach things with more patience, understanding. I also want to say that none of this is intended to be like, hey, me and Nick have the best relationship ever, and it's what everyone should strive to have. Like, that's definitely not the case. This is not, like, the epitome of relationships. Like, this is just our relationship, and we have difficulties, and we also have a great time, and we also have fights sometimes, and we also have really good peaceful times together. Like, this is our relationship, and I hope that this episode has given you like a little bit of insight into learning a little bit more about Nick, learning a little bit more about our dynamic, and maybe even like you're seeing maybe a little bit of a different side of me right now, because I'm sure I'm presenting a little bit differently right now with Nick here than I am when Nick's not here, and with my typical episodes.
I guess another benefit of this podcast is now you all know that when you hear my voice in the reel of Ashra's where I'm doing something horrific, just know that's a character.
Sometimes people comment on my videos with Nick and they're like, wow, your boyfriend sounds like an a-hole.
You
like,
gotta get out of there.
Your boyfriend is abusing and gaslighting you. You gotta get away from him. And I'm like, He is simply saying the lines that I told him to say. My reels are scripted. They're scripted based off real experiences, but they're not snippets of my real life with Nick or like real life conversations that we've had. Nick is playing a role, a character in my reels based on what I tell him to say. So this is the real Nick.
Yeah, I guess I'll take it as a compliment on the acting front.
Yeah, you're really good acting.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you for being here, Nick. Thank you all for listening and for submitting questions. As always, remember, autistic adults exist. We deserve awareness, support, community, and acceptance. And I'm so grateful that you're here. I'll talk to you again soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.